your children will be born into debt. Let's discuss. So look guys, let's break this down. Let's talk about this, okay? Now this isn't all doom and gloom. We're going to end on a positive note, okay? But today I want to talk to you about some important concepts, man. Important concepts that they're not new concepts, they're not trending concepts, but they've been happening under the people's noses, all right? So today we're talking about the UK's national debt, all right? And why is that important, Ash? Why do we need to know about the UK national debt? Well, you need to know about the UK's national debt because when you and your children and your unborn children will be born, they will all have a price tag on their heads. And as of right now, that price tag stands a little north of £180,000 per individual. So this is the UK's national debt in real time. Okay, you go to uknationaldebt.co.uk and you'll see that the UK's national debt raises around about £5,000 a second, which is astonishing. Okay, and that number there as well, that's accumulating consistently. You have to kind of double take at that number because you can't immediately even read what that number actually is. You have to kind of think about it for a second. It just gets a bit crazy. So there's a study, okay? A study come out around about March 2024, and it says that the UK's national debt was over £180,000 per person. Now this is according to the Taxpayers Alliance, okay? Now for context, this is more than 4 times the size of the whole UK economy. Right, let's break that down again. So, a study came out from the Taxpayers Alliance that as of March 2024, this year, the UK's real national debt stood around about £180,000 per person. That's from birth all the way through to adults, all age groups, okay? We all have this price tag at the moment. And this, for reference, works out to be around about 4 times the size of the UK's economy. Now, why are you telling me this, Ash? This is important because, like we said before, when anybody's born, there is essentially a debt that we all account for, okay? Now, this isn't our fault. This isn't our doing, but as consumers, as the everyday man and woman, these prices get passed on to us. And they're silent prices. They get slid into things. You know, that's where we see inflation and costs of goods and services are just getting out of hand. So all these costs get associated into everything that we love, do, and consume. So it's important that we know this and we understand that the data is real. You know, that kind of money isn't payable back. It's not insisted to be paid back. And anytime soon, this debt isn't going to be serviced. Those are the realities, okay? So what happens when that happens? So money spending can't stop and it won't stop. So the debt, as you can see from the clock, is accumulating every second. It's not going backwards, it's only going one direction. So this is alarming because this is why, and I'll be real, when I was growing up, okay, like I've always grown up in poverty, you know, I was growing up in poverty from a young age, but I had friends that were in wealthy, I wouldn't say wealthy families, they were in families which I considered well off, okay, so let's just call them the middle class. So I seen kind of two ends of the spectrum. So I was living here, and to me, I just thought that I was living cool, I was chilling. I didn't understand at the time that I was, you know, at the lower end of the economic scale. Again, like I said, I don't want to paint a picture that I had a horrible childhood. I had an amazing childhood. And again, what you don't know, you don't know. And most of my surroundings were insular, and we were all from the same kind of background. So no one had more than any other person at the time. So at the time, you don't know what you're missing. But then now and again, I'd visit friends' houses. I'd visit some other friends that I would see now and again, and they were definitely at a higher level, should we say. They were, the 5-bedroom houses, they had the 2 cars on the driveway, you know what I'm saying? Like, they had pantries, they had vestibules, they had all these different things where, like, I didn't have access to all that. So to me, they were up here. They were, you know what I'm saying? They were chilling, they were well off. They didn't have to worry about bills and kind of stuff that was going on in my household. So it was interesting, man. But as I've grown up, as I've gone through my adulthood now, and I look back with rose-tinted glasses, I start realizing that in this day and age, you don't see that anymore. Like, there isn't a such thing as a middle class anymore. I feel like that class of people, if they didn't ascend, they descended and they've joined the poverty group. That's what I'm seeing, and I feel like that's where things are going. And there's something that crucially happens, all right, at that level, whatever income level you're at. There's always these thresholds where even if you're at wealthy status, you're a couple moves away from moving down a tier. And as well, if you're at the poverty level, there's usually a few key decisions you can put in place and make that will get you to that next level financially. So it works both ways. And I feel like the thing that all of us can do, and the thing that we all should be doing, is, especially if we're at that lower end of the economic scale, put some of these things in place and start to climb up that economic ladder and slowly get towards our desired freedom goal. Because I'll be real, man, not everybody, to the contrary, wants to be a multi-millionaire. There are some people that don't want to do that. There's some people that don't feel they need that kind of money to be happy. But no matter what you want out of life, and no matter what kind of economic amounts you desire to accumulate, everybody wants freedom. And freedom looks all different shapes and sizes to individual people. But it's the one thing that we all attain to have. Whether it's more time freedom, whether it is financial freedom, whether it is that freedom to just go as you please and go on that trip when you want, or go that place where you want, you don't need to go into work. Freedom looks different to everybody, but everybody is trying to get that freedom. And getting on the path to freedom isn't as hard as you think it is. Like I said, it requires a few key decisions to be put in place. I wouldn't say choices, because a choice is something that's indecisive, it's left or right, whereas a decision is definitive, and you've decided to do that. So there's 2 major things that I did. There's a couple of things, but 2 major things that come to my head that I put in position to really give my children the opportunities, that financial springboard, and kind of eliminate that financial worry that I inherited growing up. So yeah, the first thing I did was I sat down with my wealth manager, and this was just before, I think it was a few months before my daughter was born. And I sat him down and we had a conversation, and I wanted to set up some life insurance. And I said to him, look, I want to set up a life insurance policy for my family. And he said, look, that's amazing. You know, the young boy you are, I was in my, late 20s. And he said, I don't ever get anybody in here at this age coming in serious about setting up life insurance, especially for their families and put their families in position financially. And yeah, man, he was like, let's get it sorted. I think it's an amazing thing you're doing, definitely before you become a father. And obviously went through the kind of the questionnaires and all that stuff, and he asked me what kind of benefit I wanted, what kind of, policy, what kind of capital was I looking at for my life insurance policy. And I told him the number, and he was like, are you sure? Like, why? And I was like, initially I was just like, because it sounded cool and I wanted that number. But then he really broke down, like, why do you want the number? And also, like, why do you need that number? And long story short, we got to it, we planned it all out, and we settled on around about $1 million, just under, something like that, at the time. And yeah, man, I felt like I really put someone in position to help them navigate and go forward, man. Because I'll be real, man, growing up, I had so many relatives. I had even my dad at a young age, like, pass away, and no one in my family had life insurance. Money's not the all-knowing and powerful healer, because when it comes to grief's a separate beast. But let's just be real, man. Like, having the money aspect, the economic aspect relieved and not even needed to be thought about, that's a huge, huge benefit, to leave that to your family, that one less worry to your family, man. So I think it's important that was amazing that I put that in position, and I really was intentional about that, and truly understanding that, yes, I'm planning to be around for as long as, I'm here for my family, but the reality is everybody goes at a particular time. Why not have that burden eliminated and put your family in position to really springboard financially when that unfortunate time comes upon us all? So that was the first thing I done, and I was really proud of myself of doing that, because like I said, it was intentional. It was completely not for me, because I will not enjoy any of that money. I'll be gone. So it was really a moment where I could really pat myself on the back, and it was kind of the first big step for me transitioning into that becoming more financially literate, becoming more financially, rigid, and building that financial fortitude on the path that I've been building. And yeah, man, I think it was an amazing thing that I did. And again, I'm not saying that you need £1 million life insurance policy, because again, when it's relative, some people might need more, some people might need less. So if you haven't got that in place, I think that's probably the first place to start. And I don't mean to sound like a commercial or an ad for life insurance, because I've got no affiliation with any brand, but I think it's just an important asset to really add to your investing arsenal and your financial freedom goal, for your family at least, and that's what we need to start doing, is stop thinking like a single entity, and understand that if you have got a family or planning to have a family, you gotta have a corporation mindset. What benefits the whole nucleus? What benefits the corporation? Because you're not a single entity. Don't get caught up with trying to run up the bag and trying to just secure you, because that's a selfish move, and that will ultimately hinder the whole process. And whether you've got a family now or looking to have a family, like I said, those behaviors will dictate where you go as a corporation financially, okay? So that was the first thing I did. The second thing I did wasn't shortly after that, was set up an investing account for my daughter. And again, years later on, my son came along and I did the same thing. But I started investing for my daughter as soon as she was breathing the same air I was on planet Earth. And again, still to this day, she's 5 now, she don't really know that daddy's doing that. I always make it intentional again to show her whenever I'm around her that I'm buying stock, and particularly when I'm opening her account, I always show her the amount in there. Again, she don't really understand too much. She understands that red is down and green is up. She gets that kind of thing, but it's just exposing her and kind of subliminally programming her and understanding, one, with the language I'm talking to her, and showing her the money, because again, growing up, man, I didn't have access to that. I didn't have anybody, sitting me down and talking to me, or even involving me when it comes to money. Like, even when I went to the shops, like, I couldn't hold the money for my mum. I couldn't pay. I couldn't do any of that stuff. It was like, you stay over there, this is the money stuff. Like, and again, when it comes to money in my household, it was always a negative sentiment. It was like a bill's come in, and I would see the stress on my mum. I would see the restraint and the pressure it was putting on her. She would never vocalize it. She would never put it onto us directly, but indirectly, children know, man. We have a great intuition. And I can really pull from those memories and look back, and I never wanted to do that with my children. And again, it wasn't about right or wrong. I'm not saying what my mum did was wrong, because it was a different time. But again, I'm in a position now where I'm making my choices. I'm an adult, I'm a parent, so I'm intentional with everything I'm doing. Anything money related, big or small, I make sure I involve my children. So it just becomes that one less barrier we've got to try to break down as they grow up and they become comfortable, they become confident, because money is an amazing tool. It's a powerful tool, man, and it's an amazing worker if you learn to leverage money, okay? And growing up, I thought money was just for survival. I thought it was for liabilities, and I thought it was for bills. But really and truly, when you realize what money is truly for, it's just information, access, and buying assets, man. If you use money for these three things, that will streamline you and catapult you into the next level, and pretty much immediately, as soon as you make that switch in your brain. So that was an amazing thing I did, man, is setting up my daughter's brokerage account, investing regularly for her. And another hack, which I implemented as well, because in the early days, I weren't putting in the amount of money that I could do of the times I'm in now. So what I was doing is family members, birthdays, things like that, any kind of events, rather than them buying her the liability or the toys or the things that, yeah, are cool, I appreciate them, but she won't remember them. Rather than that, put that money you were going to spend into a brokerage account. Super simple, man, and let that build up. And that's truly what's going to, move the needle for her. And still to this day, we do that. The family will put incremental amounts into their accounts, man, both my daughter and my son. And that's truly what's going to move the needle, because they're not going to remember the toy or even the trip they went on when they were 6. They may be able to pull back from memories looking at pictures, but if you start investing every year for them and building it up, by the time they're even 18, and by the time they're your age, the 30s, they're in an incredible position financially to really follow what they truly are passionate in, rather than trying to follow the bag and just survive and get a normal job. So that's with a small decision early enough, you could really transcend where your children go financially, so they can really focus on their passion, their vocation, and where they belong in the world and their purpose. They can really bring that forward. And that's what I want, man. I just want my children to be able to be worryless, in the sense of they haven't got to worry about where the rent's coming from. They haven't got to worry about deciding if they're buying Marks and Spencer's food, or they've got to go to the discount store and get the cheapest meal. And that's cool. I'm not down in anything. I'm just saying that options and choices are one of the best gifts you can give people, man, among education. So you couple all of that in there, that's what's going to really move the needle for your children, and that will change their trajectory and put them on the path of prosperity pretty much immediately, just by making those key but small additions to your life early enough on. And if your children are of older age, it's still not too late. Yeah, the best time was prior to them being born, but the second best time is right now. So don't get caught up in, oh, my child is 12 or they're 13 or even they're 16. Is it too late? No, it's not too late. It's better late than never, but never late is better. So it's all about making a decision. It all starts with you understanding where you are with clarity right now and where you want to go. And it isn't as hard as people think. It's just a few key decisions put in place early enough and being intentional with them and really respecting them and having discipline and building on top of them. Because like we said at the start, man, that national debt, that price tag on our head isn't going down. It never will go down. So we need to make the decision to put ourselves in position the best we can financially, and also even more so our children that come behind us. We need to put them in an even better position, and it all starts with great decision making. So today, man, like I said, it was all about just highlighting the facts that, you know, there is a financial squeeze. It's only really probably going to get worse. So what we can do, what we can control, is our outcomes. And the way we do that is putting key things in place early enough and doubling down on them, man, and really committing to them. And that will change everything. Honestly, that will change everything. It changed everything for me. Like I said, I come from the bottom, man. I come from the council estate. I come from somewhere where education, you know, information, access, and definitely no assets were available to me. And I didn't see a way out until when I found the education and understood that I was just a few decisions away from making the shift. And since I've done that, I haven't looked back, man. So that's what you need to do as well. So hopefully you got some value today. Hopefully we shone some light. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully that at least one person is inspired to make the pivot and move that needle financially for themselves, man. And if it's not for themselves, for their family. So like always, appreciate your time. If you got any value from this at all, please drop a thumbs up, drop a comment if you feel like it, subscribe to the channel, man. I appreciate you, and look, we'll see you guys in that next video, man. Let's go.